What if I told you that season 9 of Happily Ever After wasn't really about love surviving, but about love slowly bleeding out in public while cameras kept rolling? Because on the surface, TLC sold us anniversaries, healing journeys, and, stronger than ever, couples. But underneath that glossy promise, something felt off. Conversations didn't line up. Tears came too late. Apologies sounded rehearsed. And by the end of the season, a lot of fans were left with the same quiet question they couldn't shake at 2 a.m. Were we watching relationships heal, or watching them finally admit they were already dead? I know what you're thinking. Every season has drama. That's the show. But this one hit different. This one felt heavier, like everyone was carrying secrets they were terrified would slip out on camera. And if you've ever watched this franchise long enough, you know the most dramatic moments aren't the screaming matches. The pauses, the looks away from the camera, the moments when someone answers a question that wasn't even asked. Before we go any further, let me say this. If you've ever yelled at your TV, paused an episode just to breathe, or run straight to Reddit because you knew something wasn't adding up, you're not alone here. This channel exists for people who feel the show, not just watch it. And if you've been riding this emotional rollercoaster season after season, staying connected makes sense. Not because I'm asking you to, but because these stories don't end when the episode does. Season 9 opened with a promise that felt almost desperate. Couples talking about fresh starts, healing, redemption, but almost immediately, cracks started showing. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Take the way money hovered over everything like a ghost nobody wanted to acknowledge. Bills, prenups, power, who pays for what, who owes who sacrificed their country, their family, their identity, and now feels trapped in a life they didn't fully choose. Immigration wasn't just paperwork this season. It was leverage, and love doesn't survive long when it starts to feel like a transaction. One couple sat across from each other, smiling stiffly, saying all the right words. But their eyes weren't smiling. Every compliment sounded like it came with an invisible asterisk. And when the cameras cut to confessionals, the truth leaked out in fragments. I just don't feel safe anymore. I don't recognize who they've become. I'm tired of fighting for something that keeps hurting me. These weren't lines. These were confessions. This is where everything quietly fell apart. Because once one couple cracked, the others followed. Like dominoes. Suddenly, the season wasn't about who was happy. It was about who was pretending the hardest. Social media felt it immediately. TikTok clips went viral overnight. Short edits of awkward silences, slowed down to dramatic music. Twitter, or X, exploded with fans arguing over who was gaslighting who. Instagram comments turned brutal. He doesn't even like her. She looks checked out. This feels fake. Reddit threads went deep, pulling receipts from seasons ago, comparing old interviews, pointing out timeline inconsistencies that TLC never addressed. And the more fans talked, the more uncomfortable the show became to watch. Because the dramatic moments weren't just emotional. They were revealing. There was that scene where a partner finally snapped, not with yelling, but with exhaustion. Shoulders slumped, voice flat, saying something like, "I can't keep doing this." And instead of comfort, the other person looked annoyed. Not heartbroken, not scared, annoyed, like this breakdown was inconvenient. Like it was messing up the narrative they wanted the world to see. I know what you're thinking. Maybe they were just tired. Maybe editing made it look worse. But here's the part nobody was ready for. That same pattern repeated across multiple couples. Different faces, same energy. One person begging to be heard, the other protecting control. And that's when fans started asking the uncomfortable questions. Who actually has power in these relationships? Who controls the money, the visa, the narrative? Because when love is real, power doesn't need to be enforced. But when it's slipping, control gets louder. One of the most talked about moments this season wasn't even a fight. It was a therapy session. Two people sitting on a couch, a professional gently asking them to be honest. And for a split second, the mask dropped. One partner admitted they didn't trust the other. Not fully, not anymore. And instead of empathy, the response was defensiveness. Blame. A reminder of everything they'd done, everything they'd paid for, everything they'd sacrificed. That's not love, that's a ledger. And the internet noticed. Comments flooded in. This is emotional manipulation. Why does everything come back to money? Why does it feel like one person is always in debt emotionally? Fans started choosing sides. Lines were drawn. And suddenly, happily ever after felt less like entertainment and more like watching someone stay in a relationship they know they should leave, but can't yet. Then came the mid-season twist. The moment that forced viewers to question everything they thought they knew. A revelation slipped out almost accidentally. A timeline didn't match. A story changed. Something that had been framed as a misunderstanding suddenly looked a lot more like a lie. And TLC didn't slow it down. They didn't rewind it. They just let it pass, hoping most people wouldn't notice. But people noticed. Screenshots circulated. Old clips resurfaced. Fans realized that a major emotional turning point in one relationship was built on information that wasn't fully true. And that changed everything. Because if that moment was staged, or manipulated, what else was? This is where the season took a darker turn. Arguments stopped being about the present and started being about the past. Old wounds reopened. Betrayals that were supposedly forgiven came roaring back. And every time someone said, "I thought we moved past this," the silence that followed said otherwise. One partner admitted they felt like they were constantly walking on eggshells. Another confessed they no longer felt desired. Someone else broke down saying they felt used, like their love was only valuable as long as it provided security. These weren't dramatic sound bites. These were people realizing, on camera, that the future they imagined might never exist. And that's when the social media chaos hit its peak. YouTube comment sections turned into group therapy sessions. People sharing their own experiences with toxic relationships. Saying things like, "This is exactly how my marriage ended," or, "I stayed way too long because I didn't want to fail." TikTok creators stitched scenes with their own commentary, calling out red flags in real time. The show stopped being just a show. It became a mirror. But here's the part that hurts the most. Despite all of this, many of these couples stayed together on screen. Smiling in tell-alls, promising to work on things, saying they're in a better place now. And maybe some of them are. But the emotional damage we saw doesn't just disappear because the season ends. And that's when the final layer of truth started to surface. The biggest dramatic moment of season 9 wasn't a breakup. It wasn't a cheating scandal. It was the realization that some of these relationships are being held together by fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of losing status. Fear of proving the critics right. One last scene, almost quiet, sealed it. A partner looking straight into the camera, voice shaking just enough, saying they don't know who they are anymore outside of the relationship. That they've given so much, they're not sure what's left. And the person sitting next to them didn't reach out. Didn't interrupt. Just stared ahead. That's when the truth finally slipped out. Love can survive distance, culture, money problems, even betrayal. But it can't survive indifference. And season 9 showed us that indifference is already here. So now the question isn't who stayed together or who broke up after filming. The real question is this. Were we watching couples fight for love, or watching them slowly accept that love isn't enough anymore? And I want to know what you think. Which moment this season made you uncomfortable in a way you couldn't explain? And do you believe some of these couples are only still together because walking away feels scarier than staying? Because whatever the answer is, TLC definitely didn't want us asking it.